Going from beginner to intermediate, at some point, you're going to level up your paddle to next-gen carbon fiber, or maybe what they call titanium. But probably the biggest way that you can level up your equipment is by adding lead tape and an overgrip. I will show you what I do with links in the comment section below to the products that I use. First of all, I don't use lead tape because it's toxic. However, most of the pros do use lead tape. And it is because lead tape adds a massive increase to performance. Ben Johns is famous for using lead tape here. Later, he added it to the corners of the toe. Anna Lee Waters is rumored to put it all the way around. Christian Alshon puts a thinner piece all the way up to here. What lead tape does is increase the sweet spot. So when you hit the ball off center, it doesn't torque as much. Putting weight on the edges increases the twist weight, which stabilizes this rotation. Potentially bad shots turn into good shots, and you increase the size of the sweet spot. People are now hitting harder at you, the ball comes super fast. If I can get there, the increased stability means my return is solid. It's going over the net where I want it and not flying off random. By putting it at the top corners, you also increase swing weight, which gives you more powerful serves. There's more mass behind it to plow through the ball, but not too much to make the paddle sluggish. If you watch other videos on lead tape, they all recommend washing your hands after applying lead tape to keep it clean. They also will cover it with edge tape or electrical tape, so lead doesn't scrape off when you hit concrete, which is fine, but what happens when that paddle's useful life is over? What happens to the lead? I don't use lead, I use tungsten. I put a link down below. It's more expensive, but it's worth it to me. Honestly, it doesn't cost that much to begin with. This is made by 3M and it's 30 inches long. It is 1 gram per inch for 30 inches, 30 grams. So this one's longer than exactly 30 by that much. I'm adding a total of 12 inches for this paddle, so I'm cutting this at 12 inches. 12 grams adds 0.42 ounces, a little under a half an ounce for the overall weight of the paddle. The key is where you distribute the weight. Imagine swinging a hammer with the weight at the end of the handle. Now flip it over, and it swings much easier with the weight in your hand. The design I use allows a bit more for powerful drives, a bigger sweet spot for less bad hits, and still maintain fast hands in the kitchen. First I cut it into thirds, 4 inches for each cut. Then I take one of the 4-inch pieces and I cut that in half for 2 2-inches. So now we have 2 2s and 2 4s. The key is to have the 2 sides symmetrical. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark my paddle on a piece of paper so I get an idea of where I'm gonna put it. So I'm gonna line up the first piece like this. I'll mark it, and this peels off. The second piece is the smaller piece, which goes on the upper corner. So this is the design. Now, I lay it back down on the paper. You can see where it shows. I'll mark this. And then I'll flip it over and mark it again so that I can see where it's going. Now I put the remaining 2 pieces on. So this lines up really well. Looks pretty symmetrical. I shift it a little bit more toward the side and not toward the end, but I keep it on the corner. This kind of stays toward the bottom end, but around the side. This is the best place to put it. And what this does, wherever you put the weight, it increases the size of the sweet spot in that direction. So I'm increasing it into the 4 corners. Also, 2/3 of the weight is on the bottom side, and only 1/3 of the weight is near the top. This whole setup works really well with a next-gen paddle that has this edge guard on it. And these edge guards, on a 14mm or 16mm paddle, this tape works really well. Paddles without an edge guard like this, while they look really cool, they don't really work as well. You'd have to use thinner tape and double it up, which is kind of weird. It just seems logical to me that if most of the pros and the really good players are adding weight to the perimeter of the paddle, even this edge guard itself is a beneficial design. I'm using the Neonic Glow Primex. It's a next-gen paddle. Thermoformed unibody with foam-injected edges, which adds density to the perimeter. Many reviewers online include the Neonic in their top 10 list. Fantastic grippy carbon fiber for great spin shots. Compared with similar paddles over $250, these perform just as well for half the price. So I can spend way less on the paddle and get the upgraded tungsten tape. So I put a link below, and if you use the coupon code GERLOCK, which is my last name, at checkout, you'll get 10% off this awesome paddle, which saves you even more money so you can afford this edge tape. Edge tape will cover up the lead tape if that's what you used, but also edge tape takes the beading and scuffing up on the edges. It gives it a sleek, finished look. This will increase the lifespan of your paddle by about 1/3 longer. And playing pickleball in general helps me live 10% longer. I put a link down below for this edge tape product. It runs about $12 for 3 tapes. First, I take off this rubber band. There's a divider in the middle where you peel off just one side. So I line up the center. Once you line up the center, it kind of follows. This stuff is way more durable than electrical tape. Once I get the first side down, then I peel off the second side. It's almost easier to look at the back because you can see how much is hanging over. So once I have it around, then you just curl the edges over. They provide these little grooves so you don't get wrinkles. A little cheaper way is to use electrical tape, but this stuff really protects your paddle a lot, and I just saved over $100 on the paddle. I run the edge guard down to the grip like this because this will get covered over by the Overgrip we do next. I use Head Extreme Soft Overgrip because I like it, and I put the link in the comments. You get 3 grips for $6 or $7. Take this tape off. Again, all the pros use Overgrips. I put it on last so I can take it off and re-grip. Keeping it fresh keeps it grippy. Some people re-grip more often. Start with this tapered side. This side protects the part that your hand goes on. You start here with the taper like this, and you keep it tight, just snug. And then you start working your way down. I do a fair amount of overlap so that I'm right at the ridge before it. You can also wrap it thinner if you like. And you're wrapping counterclockwise if you're right-handed, and clockwise if you're left-handed. And since all paddles come for right-handed people, if you're left-handed, you should always re-grip with Overgrip. Once you get to the end, I cut it off. It's a tad cleaner. I just put this edge tape to finish it off, and then this rubber band, which came with the paddle, goes back on. Re-gripping increases the circumference slightly, which I really like, and it's got a great grippy feel. Also, the Neonic paddle is a little bit longer handle, and this taper at the neck allows you to have just a little bit of a grip for a two-handed backhand, which is really nice. So that's pretty much my setup. These modifications increased my game dramatically. It just feels way more deluxe when the ball makes contact. All the pros and good players do this, and getting the Neonic paddle with my discount code saves you more money than it would cost for the tungsten tape, edgeguard tape, and Overgrip. And if you compare this setup to someone who only buys a paddle that's twice as expensive, this is 10 times better. Of course, you can also buy a more expensive paddle and do this same setup to that, but it would be about the same. In fact, Neonic makes the Neonic Flare Titanium for $10 more. So I can put the other half of the tungsten tape, the extra edge tape, and the extra Overgrip to this paddle as well, and set up this second paddle essentially for free. I also put a link in the comment section for the Neonic Flare Titanium, and you can use the coupon code GERLOCK and get 10% off everything in the Neonic site. My gift to you. Now here's one bonus. I also got this cleaning stick that cleans sandpaper. It is amazing if you've never tried it. So I just cut a piece right here, and I keep this in my bag. I use it to clean the carbon face of my paddle, and it works like a charm. So try my setup, you'll get great shots with it, which makes pickleball more fun for you. So what are you waiting for? Like and subscribe.